Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast of which 2/3 of is coming from one of the few places, one of only three places in the UK, one of only three places in the UK to have a Tier 1 COVID lockdown system. Congratulations to those two. You've just heard them. My name is Tosin. I am the host of the show. I am based up in Coventry, well, for at least a while longer anyway, in the Midlands. And joining me on Isle of Wight, joining me on the lovely, lovely Isle of Wight, where people know to stay away from each other, which means that they're in the Tier 1 COVID system, are Sharon.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hi, yeah.
So, okay, first of all, when those levels were announced earlier today, I just need to ask you guys, how smug did you guys feel?
Well, I'm not really. I think Sharon's probably not as well, but I don't think we are. We're not like gloaters or smug people, are we? I don't think.
I thought it was more
I feel
relief.
sorry for the other.
But yes, I wasn't smug because you think
I feel sorry for
the people who can't have their businesses or have their daily lives. What tier are you in, Toes? Are you in a tier 3 area?
We are in a tier 3. I am currently sitting in a tier 3. Soon to be in a tier 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why we're moving. We couldn't stand. Because
I think you can move from a tier 2 to a tier 1. You can drive through a tier 3, but someone from tier 3 can't go to a 1 or a 2, can they? I think that's my understanding.
So can someone from tier 2 go to tier 3?
Yes.
Okay.
But oh no, I don't know if they can. I think you can drive through it, but I don't think you can go there.
All right. Okay. So for anybody, if there's anybody who happens, maybe just stumbled across us and is listening to this show somewhere that is not the United Kingdom, this all has to do with our COVID restrictions, and we are coming out of our lockdown 2 and going into a new version of lockdown, which is all tiered, and you have the whole country is divided into 3 different areas of increasing severity. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And one of the things that people are crying about in the area I am, the Coventry, which is going to be in tier 3, is that the pubs will not be open. So yeah, I actually had somebody almost crying at that. He was like, "Oh my god, the pub!" It was the first thing she said. And but if you want a pub, go to the Isle of Wight. But I'm guessing you guys will want everybody on the mainland to keep their germs away.
Well, I think that's why I looked up what the rules were for tier 1 and 2, because all the neighbouring areas are tier 2. And one of my friends posted on Facebook today that as long as all the people from tier 2 and tier 3 don't decide to move to the Isle of Wight into their second homes or rent a chalet or something. And I thought, I'll look up the rules to see what the rules are. And I think anyone from tier 2 can come and go freely, but tier 3 are advised not to leave their area.
Sean, you look like you were going to say something.
That'd be nice. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was thinking, can you like drive to a tier 2 and then come back to 1 or not?
Yes. But as long as you...
So you can, so you're allowed to do that. You can't, like, if you go into a 2, you've got to stay in a 2.
No, I think you have to maintain the rules of that area. So you cannot take your tier 1 ways and do that you've got to, if you move into that tier, you have to do the appropriate
stuff in that tier.
Okay, so sure. I'm going to try and keep this is supposed to be about movies. We're supposed to be talking about movies. So I'm going to try. Don't worry. I'm going to bring us back to movies before I diverge away from movies again. So I guess, Sean, you're kind of thinking like, let's say, I'm guessing that if you're in a tier 3, it means cinemas will be shut, or at least, the audience that will open on a weekend will be shut if you're in a tier 3. Yeah. But let's say you live not that far from a tier 2 where cinemas might still be open. Could you go from a tier 3 to a tier 2 to watch a film and come back? Or, we never know. But anyway, this is a podcast that also has probably taken, it seems like we've taken about a month off because one of us decided, well, it's involved a lot of hospital visits, shall we? One of us decided to go to hospitals for like, baby having purposes. And then after, actually, that sounds... Okay, just so everybody's, it was not Sharon, okay? It was my wife. my wife went to the hospital for baby having purposes, and I decided it might be a good idea to follow her. and then another one of us decided to go into hospital and give us all a scare. Isn't that right, Sean?
That is right. Yeah, I had a little bit of a torrid time. My appendix ruptured and I got peritonitis and some other stuff, and but it wasn't the COVID.
Yeah.
But it was, which was like, well, that was a thought. But so I had a really, really torrid time, and I mean, I was in hospital for like 12 days, which normally, they like to get you out as soon as they can, don't they? Really?
Yeah.
And lovely Sharon, although I probably wasn't much company, came to see me, and she bought me some books.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was like as company, because I know a couple of people come up, but I felt that I was a little bit, I don't know, probably.
No, you're all right. You're obviously a poorly person.
Yeah.
So,
I was really lucky, actually. The thing is, I think with this lockdown thing, I felt uncomfortable, and I actually phoned the doctors, and they said they phoned back, and the doctor phoned back. I explained the symptoms, and they said, oh, it's probably just something restricted, but your stomach's wrong with the stomach. They gave me some medicine, and I lasted 2 more days, which was a bit dumbass because, I got the I got sick. That's what caused the peritonitis. It caused all the infection to go around. So, but I suppose they don't know that unless you actually have a face-to-face with the doctor. I think they must just, sort of have a guess. Not.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one for doctors just because of the amount of time that they have and all that, and they have to almost paint by numbers and go, well, it's probably this. Go and try that, and if that doesn't work, and if it's still bad, then we'll know it isn't that. It's kind of like there's a it's not guessing game, but there's a deduction process they have to go through before they figure it out. But I think it's funny how, Sean, the way you describe it was kind of like you were being a typical man going, I'm sure it's nothing. Oh man,
that's it. Yeah, I was.
Made it worse.
I just was. Yeah. I was like that. It was madness, really. But there you go. But I'm really lucky to be here. So, and they were brilliant. They were absolutely. I can't fault St Mary's. They were brilliant at the hospital. They looked after me so well. Yeah. Really, absolutely fantastic.
Well, we're glad you're back. We're glad
Thank you so much.
We're glad you're putting the weight back on. We're glad you're still with us. I mean, I can't believe how many times I've had to say that this year on the podcast to Sean specifically. Sean, I'm glad you're still with us. Sean, glad that case didn't crush you. Sean, glad that appendix didn't take
I know.
you.
I know. I know people say 2020, but this has got to be probably, apart from the COVID and for a lot of other stuff, like the big birthday, everything like that. It's just, it's this year. It's like,
I wonder if somewhere back in the depths of time when they worked out the calendars, whether they got it 20 years out, whether this is the millennium bug we are experiencing now. And that that sort of Roman who said, I know the calendar starts here. I think they're 20 years out. I think we are experiencing the millennium bug.
Yeah, so that's it.
I just think it's funny. I think that's one of the phrases of the year, which I think we should probably get on a t-shirt. At least it's not COVID.
At least it's not COVID. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Sean was like, I was in hospital for 12 days, nearly died, but at least it wasn't COVID.
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it? That's lucky boy.
Well, glad to have you. So if this is the first time you listen to the podcast, what usually happens in non-COVID times, is that we do watch things on Netflix. We do go to the cinema and watch a couple of things. We rate them out of 5, and then we see where money has been better spent that week. We say, did Netflix win this week or did cinema win this week? At the moment, the last month there has been no cinema. And I'm still not entirely sure what the cinema landscape is going to look like when we come out of this second lockdown in the UK, and what is going to happen with tier 1s, tier 2s, tier 3s. I don't know. I know Cineworld, where it was all over the news this week that they got a big injection of cash, which means that they might actually have been saved as a business. But I still don't know whether that means they're going to open anything. And I don't know whether Odeon's going to come back and open some things in tier 1s, tier 2s, tier 3s, because it is just shifting sands the whole way. So there is a hefty amount of we don't know going on. So in the meantime, what's happening is, well, I think I said this earlier in the year that Netflix has won the year, and on average, Netflix has won the year. So we're just going to sit around and we're going to watch things and we're going to talk about things that we have seen at home. This week, particularly, we want to talk about comic book to screen adaptations. So we're going to talk about TV shows that started off lives as comic books or graphic novels and have been turned into TV shows. So we have 3 ones up this week. We have The Boys on Amazon Prime. We have The Walking Dead, which, Sean, I know that the series finished. Anyone who's listened to this podcast will know my thoughts about The Walking Dead. So I'm going to try and be civil and keep quiet while Sean and Sharon have a discussion, because all Sean said when we said we were going to do this, Sean, you just went, "Oh, Sharon, the final episode. I really want to know what you think about the final episode," which was before Sharon had watched it. And we're going to talk about The Umbrella Academy. We are recording this podcast 30 minutes later because today I discovered a wonderful, wonderful feature on the Netflix app on Android, which is you can watch something at 1.5 times the speed.
Hey, that's handy.
Yeah, watch something which means I managed to finish watching The Umbrella Academy before we came on. I was in the middle of it. I was like, guys, can you give me half an hour? Give me half an hour. I got another episode to watch. So yeah. We're going to end up with The Umbrella Academy. So I think we should probably start off with The Boys season 2. Now, this is a show that I think I originally saw the first season, and I reviewed that on a previous episode, The Boys season 1. And Sean, I think based on my recommendation, you went to watch it.
I did, yes.
Yeah, you went to watch it, and it is something that let's see. Bearing in mind that Sean doesn't suffer fools gladly. Yeah, apart from the anomaly that is Pompeii, which Sean thinks wasn't that bad, really. Sean doesn't suffer. There's a lot of things where you're like, nope, that was rubbish. Didn't get it. Didn't like it. And The Boys season 1 is one of the few things I know that you've come back to me. You've gone like, Toast, thanks so much for telling me about that. I am so happy you told me about that. Isn't that right, Sean?
Yeah, it was exactly right. Yeah, it was terrific. Yeah, on your recommendations, and I was like, so good. And I think, Sharon, have you seen it too?
I've seen both seasons now. Yeah, I went and
both seasons.
Because I knew that we were going to review it. I thought, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I sat and watched both seasons of The Boys.
Did it take you long? Or did you?
I actually whizzed through the first season. I managed to see that in about a week, but then it took me 2 weeks to get through the second season. I found it.
Wow.
To me, it didn't flow as easily. So I took 2 weeks to watch the second season. So I was glad when we didn't have 1 week meal meeting. I was thinking, I'm going to have to watch 3 episodes.
Now, if it was on Netflix on an Android device, 1.5 times. It really helps.
Yeah, I could have saved a lot of time. But no, I have watched them all.
All right, so The Boys. I mean, the central thing of The Boys is they actually had a poster for it that sums it up perfectly, and it has a poster for The Boys, and it says, if absolute power corrupts, imagine superpowers. And that's basically the central thesis of The Boys. Yeah. It is somebody say I think the guy who wrote it, Grant Morrison, was pretty much kind of like he was like, look, if superheroes did exist in the world, like in the real world that we're in, they would not be altruistic. They would not be superpowers. They would be like celebrities. So imagine when you have your celebrities and you have their bratty behavior. You have them showing up in tabloids like TMZ and all the sort of different antics they have. Now imagine if you gave Justin Bieber circa 2016 superpowers. What would he be like? And that's essentially what you go through. And it has all these different characters in the show. You have a character that's obviously Superman, or that's obviously Wonder Woman. Okay, that's the Flash. And it has essentially every single superhero in this show you can look at, and you can see what very famous superhero this superhero is an anomaly of, led by the Homelander, who is essentially Superman. But imagine if Superman was a little bit of a psycho. and so this is what happens in season. That's what it's all about in The Boys. And I think that there's also a bit of a meta thing where it's almost a commentary on the way comic book companies are now. So, the way there's this big company called Vought Corporation. Yep. Its initials are VC, a bit like DC. and the way it uses it seems like it owns the superheroes, it owns their rights, and therefore it can make movies about them, and it can do comics about them, And I think that there's a little a meta commentary on the fact that nowadays superheroes are everywhere. That so Marvel owned this, Disney owned that, DC owned this, Warner Brothers owned this, and then the way they sort of like feed them out, there's a meta level that's going on in The Boys that is commenting on the way big corporations use superheroes nowadays. Only that imagine if the superheroes were real and the way that they actually use them. So that's enough of that's me trying to set the scene. I'm gonna wind you guys up and let you go. So Sean, first of all, go. What did you think of The Boys season 2?
Okay, The Boys season 2. I thought it was some of the episodes for me were a little bit. There were some great episodes, and a couple were probably not quite as good as. And I can understand what Sharon was saying about it. It didn't quite flow so good as the first series. As I say, some of the episodes I thought were terrific. And as I say, the ultimate episode that was like, that was just great. So, but I mean, I did enjoy the whole thing, but I just think there were a couple of episodes where it didn't quite hit the mark, if you know what I mean. But still really good. I still love all the characters, and as I say, we get introduced to a new character, and I like you've got the origin stories, haven't you? So how it all come from the origin. I thought that was really, really inspired, because that was like right, okay, so this is where the origins come from, and I just thought that, to me, that was a really, really nice thread to go through to, where it all sort of ends up.
So you might see that Sean is trying very hard and very responsibly, to not give any spoilers about what character he's talking about or what it is that he's talking about or anything like that. And well done, Sean. Well done, Sean. That was actually really well done.
But yeah, I really, really liked that aspect of it, and I thought, yeah, that's a good origin story. So yeah. That was my thoughts on it. So yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I mean, a great series. I'm so glad you put me onto this.
Good stuff. Looking forward to season 3.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, Sharon, what did you think?
It's done quite well. Sorry, it's done quite well, isn't it? I mean, it's like in the rankings of things. Generally, you get like Netflix series, but I think it's like or I don't know if it is now, but it was like the third most popular watched series, I think, or second or third, and generally it's those ones that would be Netflix series. But
I agree with you. I think Netflix definitely tend to do more series that hit big, so to say, than Amazon Prime do. And for an Amazon Prime original, this is actually punching with the Netflix ones.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
I had read that it was the best performing sort of Amazon original series they'd ever done. No. But that's just something I had read. But my opinion on it, I thought it was certainly entertaining. I thought the writing, actually, for when you think of sort of comic book writing, I think the days of sort of Marvel and DC, we've come to expect there's sort of a higher level of storytelling rather than just good versus evil, the clearly defined roles of each side. Yeah. And so the fact that they blur the lines is I thought it just was really sort of intelligent writing, which you don't always expect, which I was surprised by that pleasantly, especially with one of the main characters, how this character is a complete monster, but then you get glimpses of humanity, you get glimpses of maybe what this person could have been had their environment been different, had they been had circumstances been different. You think this person could actually have been a superhero, but they got twisted by the circumstances. And I think that's sort of clever writing, because you originally think they're just a monster who's got a mask on all the time, but then when the mask slips, you do think actually there are glimpses of of humanity in there, so that you can't just say, oh, he's evil. Sorry, I've given it away. This person, gender non-specific person, is just evil. It's like no, that's not that simple. So I quite like the fact that even the characters who do these most appalling things are not completely one-dimensional. You think, no, actually there are nuances even in the most despicable of characters.
You see, now Sharon, I don't actually think that it's a spoiler whatsoever to say that you're talking about Homelander, because because this is a character who is beginning to cross over from people who know the show into the public consciousness, especially because with everything that's going on in America at the moment, with a certain president's supporters going on marches in the streets and demanding that people count the votes or stop the count, depending on which state you're in and what you're listening to. Yeah, one of them dressed up as Donald Trump, but with a Homelander outfit on. So this is a Donald Trump supporter, wore a Homelander outfit, but put a Donald Trump mask on. And which prompted Eric Kripke, who is the creator of The Boys, the guy who made it for the TV, to actually go, are they even watching the show?
Did they?
He's like, are you guys even watching the show? I mean, what the hell? that they're walking around going like, yeah, check it out. So yeah, but I do agree with you that the writing is quite well done, and it's quite. It's usually you might have like the whole thing where, oh, nobody's a good guy, everybody's an anti-hero, but I think that the way it's done in The Boys is actually quite well. I mean, there's some wrinkles they bring in like, what do they call them? It's essentially Scientology. They essentially have
that's basically
the church of something or other. I can't remember. It's basically Scientology. They're talking about Scientology, and it just brings home the whole idea that essentially substitute celebrities for superheroes, and the way superheroes are used, and the way people sort of manipulate the superheroes, and the fact that you think the superheroes are powerful, and therefore nobody should be able to tell them what to do. But the fact is, oh no, but they hold the purse strings, and so even though they're superheroes, money still rules. Like money is the real actual superpower. And I think Giancarlo Esposito, who plays the head of Vought, I think he's really, really good in all these scenes where he's kind of like, we have all these superpowered people, but I'm the one in charge. And I think it's just really well done. I think Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander, is all right. I mean, Sean, you weren't around when Sharon was talking about this, but she was talking about Carl Urban's Cockney accent.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I don't believe it.
Did it drive you nuts? Did it?
Oh, it did, especially when you have members of his family and they're all like, "Call blimey" in it. I just thought, oh, please. Even his aunt, was like, "Call you little wow." I was like, what the hey? And they had one English actress, she was the one who was in Downton Abbey as the cook, played his mum.
Yeah.
And so I thought, even she's doing it, and you're English. So I don't know where they thought they would make, I think, the Grant brothers are slightly embarrassed, I think, if they...
you do expect them to go, oh, shut up, you slag.
That's it, yeah.
Instead, there's one particular word that they're very fond of, and it's like, you may have heard that that's a particularly fond, English expression, but not everyone likes words that, are 4 letters long and rhymes with something I won't even say.
There's it's funny, but in America, that is like the worst word. That is, I mean, when I speak to people, that's the worst. That is worse than anything else you can call them. That's certainly the MF word or anything like that. That is the sort of, if you call someone that word, that's like,
Yeah,
that's probably why they did it.
That's like cause for war.
That's
they seem to think that everyone does it.
Yeah, they think all English people just use that word like hello. So, so
hello, you.
Well, I think one final
thing.
Me
that and I'll smack you.
One final thing that I want to say about The Boys is that, especially this season, because I actually think, or personally, I understand what you were saying about it being a bit slow at the beginning, because it's almost as if after the first season, it's almost as if they had to sort of like get everything up to speed again, and they had to sort of kickstart the whole story again, which is sometimes which you have. It's not a smooth. Even look at the final scene of first season 1. When season 2 starts, it's almost as if they've ignored the fact that final scene of season 1 happened, and it's about episode and a half before they explain how this links to what happened at the end of season 1. So it is a bit weird to sort of get going. But one thing that is done is that, because I think out of the three of us, I'm the only one who's read the original comic books of The Boys.
Yeah.
And I think whenever you've read anything, I mean, Sharon, I think on the last show we recorded, we were talking about Rebecca and about how you'd read the original book. And so whenever you're watching the adaptation of Rebecca, you're thinking about the original book and you're thinking, ooh, I don't know about that.
You can't help not, yeah.
And I know I can get precious about the fact that they would change something from the book to the TV show. And I'll be like, oh, why did you change that? Why did you change that? And with the timeline of what happens in the comic, they have messed with the timeline. They have jumbled things up. They have moved things. There's stuff that happens at the end of season 2 that happens right at the beginning of the first comic, that you pick up. But there's stuff that happens at the beginning of the TV show that happens later on in the comic. So it's been jumbled all around. And I can get quite precious, but this show actually showed me, no, this is the point of TV adaptations. Because if you already have a storyline that is in a book form, why are you going to make that again? And with something,
you've got no surprises.
Yeah, and with something like The Boys, you get a chance to make it more relevant to what's going on today. Talking about Homeland addressed as Trump, there's a lot of things that people look at The Boys and they sort of go, oh, yeah, this is talking about Trump right now. This is talking about what happens.
Yeah, this was written.
Yeah, it's like, what happens when you give a man baby a whole bunch of power? So I think this actually made me go, okay, no, this is the point of TV adaptations. So this is the opportunity you have when you adapt something, that you can go into different areas and you can change different things. And I think The Boys has done that very, very well, because the way they do things especially when it comes to Butcher and his relationship with his wife, I think that the way that they've done it and the way they've adapted and the way they've switched it and changed it, I think is really, really good. I'm watching going, okay, oh, all right, oh, good. And there's some things that I think there's some things that happen in the comic that they just kind of look and I can almost see them going, guys, we can't do that. It's too much. We can't do it. So, yeah, Boys season 2, I quite enjoyed it. How many stars would you guys give it?
I would personally give it a 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Me, I'm sorry. I have to purely for that ultimate episode, and I mean, I loved it from the start. I really enjoyed it, so it gets a big 5 for me. I'm sorry. All right. I can't help it. It's total 5. It's been my favorite. It's been my favorite series of anything I've watched, really.
Oh, right. Nice.
Good.
Okay. Which episode are you talking about, Sean?
The final episode.
Oh,
the final episode. The final episode. Yeah. I mean, I really, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I think probably a lot of people who were invested in the show probably would have been quite pleased with that, I think.
And I would give it a 4.
Okay.
I would give it a 4 because I think it's actually really good. And I think it's talking about it being a commentary on today's. There's a scene in that final episode you're talking about, Sean, that has to do with women. That is almost. I looked at it. When I was watching it. I was going, "Is this a little bit of a piss take of Avengers Endgame with one particular scene that has to do with women?"
Yeah. I can see exactly where you're coming from. I see exactly that. Yeah. Yes.
And there's a line that the character Frenchie says with is played by Toba Capone, and he kind of like looks at it, he goes, "Oh," and he says this line, and I'm just kind of like, "Yeah, totally taking the piss right now."
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's what I mean. The whole thing is great. Like I say, a commentary. There's so many underlying factors in it. Really,
there's a lot of layers.
Really good.
There's a lot of layers that you look at it and you get it when you see it, but when you try and explain it, you kind of get jumbled up in knots. But you're like, no, but this is what they're doing, but I just can't really explain it. But it's really clever.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, The Boys season 2. I think we will all say we could recommend that. Out of curiosity, Sharon, what would you have given season 1, stars wise?
I probably would have given it a 4. It was slightly more gripping, but overall I would say, for me, it's entertaining, but I did love it. But yeah, it was certainly entertaining. So yeah, I would say the first season was a 4 for me, and then second season was a 3.
Oh, cool. Good stuff. And now, let's go on. That was The Boys season 2, and let's go into The Walking Dead season 714, which which is Sean, Sharon. I mean, okay. So The Walking Dead. This is what season? What was it? 15, 11? I don't know. That just finished.
10.
Yeah. Well, there was 10, and because there was we missed that. We had to wait a while, didn't we, until because
they couldn't do post-production. They shut down post-production when COVID first appeared on the scene. And so it's a while before they could actually go into post-production and finish it off. So I think it was the last 2 or 3 episodes they postponed. I think it was last 2. They had to wait. So we had like a double bill finale.
All right. So The Walking Dead, I mean, if you don't know what The Walking Dead is, then I don't know, you're probably not listening to this podcast. But essentially, zombies, zombies, post-apocalyptic world, people trying to make do. It's all about coming on the human condition. I think it's been on TV too long. So, but there was something about this final episode that made Sean go, "Oh, Sharon, I'd like to know what you think." So, Sharon, do you want to give us a little bit of synopsis? Sure. Tell us a little bit about the final episode. Tell Sean what you did think, and then we'll see what goes from here.
Well, I think over the course of the many series of The Walking Dead, they had the thing about you. As the time passes and the world evolves, they encounter different sort of adversaries. So the group that we follow have adapted their own way of life, and they've set up these they've a community of survivors where they have their little enclaves, and they're more or less like establishing trade again, and they have markets again, and they have an economy again almost. And so they've established a way of life, and every now and then they encounter another group or another group of survivors who have evolved in a completely different way. And in our earlier seasons we had cannibals, and then others we had sort of scavengers, and we've had people who have just adapted to this new world in a way that's almost diametrically opposed to our group of survivors. And in the last couple of seasons we've encountered a group called the Whisperers. And the Whisperers have basically almost gone into disguise. So they take a zombie, a walker, and they skin it effectively, and then they wear a mask of a walker, and they walk and they smell and they act in a way that doesn't draw the attention of the dead. And so they sort of blend in, and they call the walkers not zombies, not walkers, they call them the Guardians, so that they can hide amongst what would be, for everyone else, would be this horror. They sort of walk among them and they live among them, and they regard them as being their guardians, as they're being their community. And so when you get people who see the walkers as community, and then you see them as something that has no value, has no meaning, that their only value is like you kill one of those and that increases our chances of survival, they meet, and then there's confrontation. And so the leader of the Whisperers is called Alpha. They disavow their names. They become like the dead. They have no individual identities. They become just with the Guardians. And so the only identities they have is like the Alpha, the Beta, and then the letters of the Greek alphabet. That's the only sort of hierarchy they recognize. And so there's been a big confrontation between the survivors that we followed and Alpha and the Whisperers. Oh. And so this has been building up over the last season or 2 until there's this big confrontation. And the new leader of the Whisperers, who's called Beta, we find out about his backstory, and then there's the culmination of the tension that has been building for a number of weeks.
Okay, thank you for that. And so I'm trying not to be disparaging here, but yeah. So what did you think of that final episode that Sean was talking about?
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it's going to take. Again, you look at the characters we've got to know really well, and for some of them, you think it doesn't. They try not to reset the clock after every season. So where they are at the end of a season, they don't go, let's just go back to where we were. And they try to take them into a new place each time. And so I like the way that they've left our group of survivors and what's coming next, and the next potential tension. And then there's the next sort of avenues of this new world that's opening out more as the seasons go on. Instead of just like being this little group, you begin to see a post-apocalyptic world, and so the horizons are broadening. And I like the fact that, again, we've seen over the last few seasons the horizons have broadened and broadened, and there's taken another step as well to broaden that bit more, and potentially to open up a whole new different landscape for our survivors. So I actually really liked where it's going, and I'm quite interested again to see what the next step is for the Walking Dead crew.
Sean?
Sean.
Yeah, Princess. What can we say about Princess? New character come into it. Love
New
her.
character.
She's great. Princess. Yeah, no, this is. I mean, I think for me, with the series sort of lost its way a little bit. It was, the first few series were excellent, and then it's sort of lost. It got a
lost
bit
its way like
a bit
5
convoluted.
seasons ago.
But it's got it back. It's got it back in. It's just so come back. And I mean, the last few episodes that I've watched and the ultimate episode, I've really, really, really enjoyed, and I've really got back into it. And echo what Sharon says, it's going to be really interesting to see where this goes now, because it's got me hooked again. As I say, it did. There was a stage where it was like, when the series first came out, I was like, oh, Walking Dead, can't wait, man, you have to watch this, and then it became, okay, well, I'll catch up with that a bit later through the sort of middling series. But this one certainly, I mean, it's full of action, it's full of characters. Yeah, it just really, really, it's going to be quite interesting, like Sharon says, to see where they're going to take this, because I think they've got it back, haven't they? Do you think that, Sharon?
I think so. I've always watched it, and I've always liked it. But there are times when it's felt like, where is this going to go? I mean, you can't keep on having, a big bad, as it, like in a computer game where you have the big
it's the governor, then it's Negan, then it's this,
and then it's you can't keep on having this. You've got to step it up a bit. So I think when they changed it from just like a big bad to this different way of living, I think that made it more interesting. And so I think they've had a new showrunner, and so they've had a new impetus to sort of change things. Characters have come and gone, and we've got some, like Princess, there's some new characters have come in, and these sort of changes, and there's still are sort of some of our favourites, but there's a few others I think, why don't they just kill them off?
they're like, oh, they've had their time, come on, let's see them go. But I'm with it.
Yep.
Yeah, did you like Princess then, did you? I think she's really quite, and I mean, when they first sort of just before they meet her, that's quite a sort of I mean, that was a little bit light-hearted with a few of the, but she's great. I think what a great character.
I think this is an interesting sort of twist, because all the other sort of younger characters we've seen have all been of a type. The people they're all recognisable as, yes, they'll fit in with our survivors, and yet when you get someone different, you're thinking actually they're not of a type, they're someone completely different. So you think, well, that's it needs that sort of fresh impetus every now and then.
Okay, so. Okay, I have whinged about The Walking Dead at this stage. I have whinged, and I am happy that you guys are. Well, I think at the moment it's going to the point where there's too many episodes for me to ever get into it.
I would say if you've lost it, stay long.
There's too many episodes for me to ever get into it, and and I think that I think the show is a zombie. I think the show itself is a zombie in that it's never going to die. It's never going to go away. It's never going to end. And I've talked about how much I love things that end. And with The Walking Dead, I don't see an end. And just like a zombie, it goes and infects other people, and it keeps spawning new zombies. So you have Fear the Walking Dead, and then you have 3 movies that are going to star Rick Grimes, and you have The Walking Dead: The World Beyond or something, which is now a teenage Walking Dead.
I've only seen 3 episodes of The World Beyond, and it was almost unbearable, I have to say. But I've got about 6 in the bag. I've got to try to catch up on, but it was tough. So I'm going to try to persevere.
Is that not worth the?
I think it is worth it to see, because it gives you a slightly different take on the world of the Walking Dead inhabits. But it is the main protagonists are teenagers. And there's nothing more annoying to someone who's not a teenager than teenagers, really.
Is there lots of zombies being killed still?
I think it will pick. Yes, there are. I think it starts off slow because they've been in this protected environment, and then they sort of venture out into the world. So most of them have not really encountered much in the way of zombiness. And so it's when they venture out they have a quest. That they start to have to test their own mettle. as it were.
Oh.
It's pretty appalling, but I'm going to see if I can persevere. And they had one British character in it, and you see her house, and she's got like this huge Union Jack that's framed and mounted on the wall, and it's upside down.
Oh, another one that's upside down.
And you think, did you do no research? Did you just think, oh, let's have a British character, that'll make it interesting? And they do no research that they even recognise when a Union Jack is upside down, or that the character would think, why would I hang the Union Jack upside down in my own house? Ridiculous.
Or it could just be something like The Crown. I'm not sure whether you guys watch The Crown, but I'm watching season 4 of The Crown at the moment. And there's a bit where they're in Buckingham Palace. They have a shot with the Queen Mum in it, and there's a rat, like a literal, actual rat that runs across the screen on the floor. You're like, what the? And it's really like, I saw it and I was like, wait a second, is that, are they trying to make a point here or something, or it is? Because I was like, how did you miss that? How did you miss the fact that there's a rat that just run across your set? And also, where the hell is your set if there's a rat?
If you can have rats run across there.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they don't have rats in Buckingham Palace.
We don't know. This is
big.
Well, no, not only is it big, but at this point it's in the 80s, and they do make a point of saying that the palace is a bit out of date in the 80s. And but anyway, I haven't finished watching that. We're not reviewing that. We're not reviewing The Crown.
Not reviewing that. No.
How many stars? How many stars would you give The Walking Dead season whatever?
Okay.
See, I'm still committed, so I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say I'm going to have to give it a 4 as well. I shall give it a 4.
All right, cool. And now we come to our final film, or final TV show, which is Umbrella Academy Season 2. Now, this is on Netflix, and I'm the only one who's seen it. But to round off our comic book or graphic novel to screen thing is Umbrella Academy Season 2. Now, I know, Sean, you tried to get into Season 1. I thought it was a little bit slow.
Yeah, it took me.
Yeah.
I watched a couple of episodes, and it didn't.
I only watched 2, and I gave up after 2.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that. I know that it is a bit slow. It is a bit slow. It's a bit weird. And the same way we talk about the boys being the superheroes, like, okay, if power corrupts, then what happens with superpowers? The Umbrella Academy can almost be described as what happens after the crime fighting is over. So it is, you have this group of superhero children, quite frankly, and they're molded together by this guy who adopts them all and makes them a dad. So it's essentially it's essentially X-Men. They're different. They go out there. They're supposed to be superheroes, but everything you've heard about, you meet them years after the superhero crime fighting has stopped, and they are all, quite frankly, screw-ups. in one way or another, they're all screw-ups, and there's reasons for what happened and everything like that. And at the end of season 1, they're trying, throughout season 1, they're trying to stop the apocalypse. And at the end of season 1, they do something which means that now, even though season 1 is set in 2019, season 2 is set in 1963. So,
oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it's set to 1963. So they end up in 1963, but something goes wrong and they don't all arrive at the same time. So some of them arrive in 1960, some of them arrive in 1961, some of them arrive in 62, some of them arrive 3 months apart in 63. And it's all about them living in this different timeline and what do they do and what happens. And one of them, the assassination of JFK plays a big part in this season. And one of them is determined that he's going to stop the assassination of JFK because he's a hero, and that's what heroes do. and it's the way they sort of interweave with actual history of what happens. So one of them ends up working for Jack Ruby, who is the guy who shot Lee Harvey Oswald. And you have all these different things that come in. And I think this is one of those cases of the second season being better than the first. Because I feel like in the second season, it's all the cliches. It's more confidence. They know what they're doing. All those, trot them all out. But it's true in this. Like the second season seems to have a place of where it's going, seems to know what it's doing, and it just seems to go along at a quiet pace. It goes along at a quiet pace. My big problem with the first season was that the final episode. The final episode was like the generic final act of every superhero movie you've seen before they started getting clever. And it was just like, oh, for goodness sake, oh, come on, oh, no. And in this one, they switch it round and it actually ends up being quite clever. I quite like this season. I think it went, by the time we got to the final episode, I was kind of like, oh, I quite like that. Oh, I like what they did there. And I think it's really good. I think the characterizations, it's almost as if the characters, the actors know their characters, and especially Robert Sheehan, who plays Klaus, because he is kind of like the druggy one. He's the one who's, well, in their own timeline, he's always been on drugs, and he goes to 1963, and he ends up inadvertently starting a cult. so he's walking around looking like, your typical kind of like a person who's co-opting Indian mysticism and all that, with the long hair, with the shalwar kameez, with the marigolds around his neck, and all that. And he's ended up starting a cult, and he's tired of his followers who keep chasing him everywhere. He's like, leave me alone. So I would say I think it's a really, really good season. I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I think that the way they build quite well on season 1, and they subvert some of the expectations that sometimes it looks as if they're just retreading the same ground as season 1, because it's kind of like season 1's about, we've got to stop the apocalypse, it's happening in 6 days. Season 2 is about, we've got to stop the apocalypse, it's happening in 6 days. Right. Only this time the apocalypse is in 1966. It's all about nuclear war and all that. And it's but they do it in a quite clever way. And the way the season ends, the final word of the season, I think is brilliant. The way it ends makes you go, okay, I wonder what's going to happen in season 3. Mm. But pretty much it kind of just, if you think about the central thesis of it, if The Boys is superheroes would be terrible, and this one is superheroes are screw-ups, because when you actually break it down, the Umbrella Academy, they don't really succeed at anything. They keep trying to succeed, and they keep, let's be honest, failing. they keep failing. And it's almost kind of like a catalog of failures, but they keep trying. I think it's quite funny. I think the interplay between the characters is brilliant. I think the performances are good, are really, really good, especially from the guy who plays he's the youngest of the Umbrella Academy, or he's the youngest actor, but he plays the oldest character. Mm-hmm. Because of some timey-wimey thing. And sometimes you have like a kid actor who plays something and it just doesn't work, and you're like, oh, for goodness sake, but he is really, really good. I can't remember his name, but he's really, really good, and he sells it. He sells it really, really well. But anyway, yeah, that is it. Umbrella Academy season 4. I would recommend it. And I know that the beginning of the first one is a bit slow, and I think if I hadn't read the comic beforehand, I might have stopped. I understand why that might have happened. But if you push through with it, I think it might be, maybe just start at episode 5. Start at episode 5 of season 4 of season 1, and then maybe there'll be some things that'll make you go, oh, what is that? Why is that happening? Go back and find that out. But yeah, but that's it. So that is what we have for today. We, generally speaking, I think the headline is comic books make good TV shows.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's what I'm going to take from this, that comic books make good TV shows. So until, I guess you guys will find out what's happening with cinemas by next week. Yeah,
if they're going to reopen, whether they're going to reopen the cinemas on through the tiers, that would be interesting.
I mean, I think with Cineworld, I think with the island, because I was thinking that might be one of the ones that might, the one on the island, they might think, oh, well, we're not going to worry about that. But then again, I was thinking, or I was having a chat with someone, and they were saying that they probably might keep the island because they haven't got any competition as such here, apart from the little one at Ride. And all right, they might show the same film on 10 screens, every hour. But I reckon we might be lucky, Sharon. I'm hoping we're lucky anyway, because it'd be horrible if it goes.
They do have a monopoly, and now that we know Cineworld is not going to collapse just yet, it might be something.
And the people did go back during the last sort of reopening. People were going back, so I think that would hopefully would demonstrate to them that there is a will out there and a desire.
Yeah, that's it. I worked out all our episodes of like the ones we talked about, and they all got 4, didn't they?
Yeah.
All our TV shows, all our things got 4.
All
to
the
work
TV
it
shows
out.
got
So you gave Umbrella 4, the 2 4s for Walking Dead,
the 3,
so the
the
average
4,
would have
the
been
5.
5 was a 12 divided by 3 is 4. So hey, it's been a good
Yeah, it's been a good thing. Comic books make good TV shows.
comic books.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm
They're a
actually
good source.
Yeah, I actually think that the graphic novels, especially, they lend themselves to TV shows as opposed to films. I think the TV shows
they tell the story over time.
Yeah, it gives you more time to sort of like let the characters breathe and all that, which is why some people say that essentially what the MCU have done over 10 years is they essentially made a TV show, but out of movies.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's like Iron Man was just season 1.
That's it. Yeah.
That makes sense, doesn't it? When you think of it like that, that does make more sense than you think. Yeah, that's
needs some continuity, doesn't it? Needs something to
it does to glue it together. So until next time, when we will figure out what's happening, when I will probably talk about The Crown, Sharon will probably talk about, what was that thing you said you watched?
Barbarians,
and Sean, what was it? Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit, yeah.
Yeah, when we should come back and listen to this, and then that would tell us what we're going to do. Listen, what we're going to talk about next week. But until that time, it's a goodbye from me.
That's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me. And it's nice to see you guys again. Nice to be back.
It's nice to see you too, Sean, on Zoom. I think I need to point that out, on Zoom. I am not leaving a tier 3 area to go to a tier 1. So, as much as I would like to go hang out on the island. So, yeah, until then, see you guys. Thank you. Bye.